Hello, welcome to 6.2. So if you've already watched 6.1, 6.1 is all about, or chapter 6 in general is all about factoring. And 6.1 is getting your feet wet by talking nothing more than just greatest common factor, right? But we're going to take that a step further here in 6.2. Okay, so bear with me. Now, when it comes to factoring, what we're going to do is we're going to take this trinomial and break it into two binomials. Okay, and there's some tricks to it. I like to think of it as more like a puzzle. And there's a couple things that you want to focus on. And I want to tell you them now because when we get into 6.4 and later, 6.3 and 6.4 and later parts of chapter 6, you'll see how it comes in, how it comes into it comes to be really useful. Okay, so right now my number in front of x squared is 1, and we want that to happen. We not only want it to be 1, but we want it to be a positive 1, right? If it's not, we can adjust it, uh, and we will in later sections. We'll adjust it to, we'll force it to be so. And but let's talk about why that's true. All right, first of all, x squared is going to break down to x and x because remember, you're just splitting it in half. X times x is x squared. So x here, x here. All right. Now, here's the first part of the puzzle is what signs do I need? Am I looking at two positives, two negatives, or one of each? Well, everything's based off this second sign here. If the second sign is positive, then you're going to have two of the same sign. And it kind of goes back to what we originally talked about in class, where if the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. And then if the signs are different, you subtract. Same thing, same concept kind of applies here. So if that second sign is positive, then both signs are the same as the first sign. So in this case, they're going to be plus, plus. And I'm going to jump ahead real quick to from 2 so you can see the difference. X, X. This time, the second sign is positive, and the first sign is negative. All right, so the second sign is positive, says they're both the same as the first. It's going to be minus, minus. Okay, now let's go back to 1 for a second. Um, now, x plus a number, x minus, or x plus a number, x plus a number. What numbers are we talking about? Well, then we have to look at the factors of 3. And the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So it's very simple. There's no guesswork at all. It's just simply x plus 1 and x plus 3. And now, because we're multiplying, the order in which I put these doesn't matter. So it could be x plus 1, x plus 3 like I have it, or it could be x plus 3, x plus 1. Okay, now, if the number in front of x squared was not 1, then I would also have to look at factors that were contending here. So for instance, if that was a 2 out front, then I would have to either have a 2 here. I would have to have a 2 in front of one of the x's because the factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Right? That's not so bad. But if say the number out front of x squared is 4, then I have to consider I have to crunch my numbers multiple times to figure out, do I need 2 and 2 or do I need 4 and 1? And if it's 4 and 1, which order does it need to be in? So it really gets convoluted. And so it really is helpful if we can have that number in front of x squared to be a positive 1. Right? You'll see if you don't already understand that, you'll start to see why I say that over and over again going forward. Okay, so on number 2, we've already got this set up. Now, we got to ask ourselves, what are my factors of x? What are my factors of 36? Well, I have 1 and 36. I have 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Okay, so there's that. Um, okay, so you have to ask yourself, what two numbers multiply by to 36? Well, we have a list of them here. And they also add, and I'm adding because my signs are the same, they also add to 13. Well, that's this one. It's this one right here. 4 and 9. So minus 4, minus 9. And again, the order doesn't really matter. If the sign's the same, order doesn't matter. You can go on about your day. Okay, number 3. Here, the second sign is negative. So that's going to change things a little bit. X squared still breaks down to x and x. Okay, but because my second sign is negative, that means now I have to have one of each sign. So it's going to be plus, minus, could be minus plus, but it's up in the air right now. All right, it does matter what number goes where, and we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, but okay, so I need two numbers that multiply to 26 and add to 13. All right, so it's going to be 1 and 26, 2 and 13, and I think that's it. Okay, but that looks like it's enough because if I subtract 13 minus 2, I get 11. So I'm going to use these two, x squared plus 11x minus 26. Okay, um, so one of them is going to get a positive sign, one of them is going to get a negative. How in the world do you do that? Well, um, the middle term dictates it. So right now the middle term is positive. So the bigger factor, in this case 13, is going to get the sign in the middle term. Okay, so let's kind of review for a second. As I said, this is kind of like a puzzle. And the first part of the puzzle is you have x and x. The second part of the puzzle is, what about my signs? And the rules for the signs are, if the second sign of the original problem is positive, then both signs are the same as the first sign. Okay, so if it could be both positive, it could be both negative. But if the second sign is negative, then I'm going to have one of each. Okay, and then if the signs are the same, the factors, you just plug them in. It doesn't matter which order. But if the signs are different, the bigger factor gets the sign in the middle term, right? And then your factors, your non-x's, they are based off of that last number in the equation. Okay, so you just check your factors and you ask yourself, all right, what multiplies this number, which is your list of factors, and either adds or subtract to give you the middle term. All right, so let's quick review. Let's take a look at the rest of these. Number 4. All right, we got x and x. I'm going to do plus minus. Okay, my factors are 21, or 1 and 21, 3 and 7. Okay, so we're going to use 3 and 7. We're going to say plus 3 minus 7. 7 is the bigger factor, and it gets the sign of the middle term. All right, moving on. You have y minus minus. Okay, we have y factors of 35, or 1 and 35. 3, no, 5 and 7. So we're going to use 5 and 7. And my sign's the same, so it doesn't matter which goes where. It's that. Now, 6 may screw you up a little bit just because there's an x and a y. But don't stress yourself out and don't let a problem intimidate you right out of the gate. Give it some time, let it breathe. All right, so x squared is going to be x and x. Y squared is going to be y and y. My second sign is positive, so they're both the same as the first, which is negative. So now I just need to figure out the number in front of y. So the factors of 34 are 1 and 34, 2 and 17. Because my sign's the same, I'm going to add. So I've gone far enough. And that's going to be 2y and 17y. Right? So it's not that bad. Right? Just think of it like a puzzle and just do one piece at a time. And don't let yourself get intimidated by such a problem. All right, now for problems like 7 through 10, remember we want to solve these problems with the number in front of x squared, or that number in front to be 1. But sometimes, if you look at all your terms, you can do that just by taking out a GCF. And if you need to know how to do it, take out a GCF, refer back to lesson 6.1. Okay, so on number 7, we have 3, 33, and 72. Now, it may not be obvious to you that 3 goes into 72, but remember that there's 24 hours in a day, 48 hours in 2 days, 72 hours in 3 days. So when you think of things like that, if you can ever connect factors or multiples, some kind of multiplication fact to something real, something tangible, like I just did with the days, that stuff helps you click it. It clicks to your brain a little bit better. For instance, I always remember that 4 times 13 is 52 because I always think about playing cards. There's 4 suits. There's 13 cards in each suit. There's 52 cards in the deck. Right? So that kind of stuff is really helpful. If you can take some kind of multiplication fact, random multiplication fact, and apply it to something tangible and real, then that's helpful. So that's a little side box, a little extra for you. All right, so I'm going to take a GCF of 3 out of here, and it's going to be x squared plus 11x plus 24. All right, at this point, the 3 is outside. It's going to stay outside all the way to the end. So I'm just going to hang out there, and then I'm going to break this apart. Okay. So let's do this. We got x and x plus plus, and I need to figure out what times what is 24 and adds to 11. So I got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and that's it. And we could have stopped at 3 and 8 because 3 and 8 is 11. So 3 and 8, because the sign's the same, doesn't matter. Now, when we get to 8, we get the 8, we see we have 2r cubed, 26r squared, and 72r. So I know they're all even, and they all have at least 1r. So let me take that out. And that's going to leave me with um, r squared plus 13r plus 36. Okay. So again, just like the 3 on number 7, the 2r is outside, and it's just going to hang out there. It's going to be 2r, parentheses, r, r, plus, plus. All right, we got 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6, and there's our winner, 4 and 9. And again, sounds the same, so it doesn't matter. Okay, now I mentioned earlier that we want that number in front to be both positive and not, we want it to be 1, and we want it to be a positive 1. Okay, so each of these has a 15 in it. But because I want that first term to also be positive, I'm going to take out a negative, and so it's going to be a negative 15. When I do that, I get a positive t squared, a minus 2t. I have to change the sign, and a minus 3. Okay, so it changes all the signs. Okay, so here we go. We have negative 15t. So the negative 15 is just going to hang out. I'm going to factor this. Let's see. T, T, plus, minus, so I guess that's negative. So I have one of each. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So uh, the bigger of the two factors gets inside of the middle term, so it's going to be minus 3 plus 1. Okay, there you go. Okay, last one. Right, I just want that first term to be positive. So I'm going to take out a negative. It's technically a negative 1 out there, but I'm not getting rid of the GCF. I'm just putting it outside. And so it's going to be negative x squared plus 3x minus 18. Okay, so I'll break this up. X plus minus, and then my factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and that's it. Okay, and then if I want 3 in the middle, because my signs are different, I subtract. So it's going to be that one. Okay, and then the middle term is positive, so 6 gets the positive, and then I have minus 3. Okay, now looking at my notes, I need to check something. Let's see. You may have noticed it earlier, but 5 and 7 give you 12, not 13. So you try to factor this. You try to factor this. You y, minus, minus, but you can't get to 13. There's nothing you can do here. This one is already factored. So this is what we call prime. Okay, that's what we call prime. If it can't factor, it's prime. I apologize for the confusion before, but and this is one of the situations, if you remember back to chapter 5, that when we were dividing polynomials, if we had a remainder, that means we couldn't factor. And this would be an example like that. We can divide all day long, but this, we cannot factor it cleanly because it cannot be factored. It's prime. Sorry. Okay, that's 6-2. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, and good luck on the homework.